Question is, how do you figure out this whole retirement thing? That's usually why you're with us. You know what? I've heard something here before. I'm going to try and stay with it. Maybe I'll watch next week to try and figure it out, because we're all trying to figure it out. You've been doing what you've been doing for 40 years. Now you're trying to figure out this thing called retirement. Most of us would kind of like to just do it once. Chance is here to try and help you do that. Debunking some of the myths, trying to figure out how we're going to do it. Inflation, don't worry about inflation. I want to talk a little bit, forgive me, about inflation. To maybe inflation-proof our income going down the road. Look, Social Security starts to be one of the things that we rely on, right?
Yeah.
For most of us. And I think for, at least in the latest stats, 1 out of every 4 households is trying to rely on Social Security, and it's not working. If I lean on inflation proofing and I lay that out to you and say, how do we inflation proof our retirement? Because let's be honest, most advisors don't really talk about inflation as part of your need for money in the end. It is what it is. We'll deal with it when we deal with it. Why do we need to inflation proof a retirement plan?
Well, inflation is the invisible tax, right? A lot of people don't account for it because a lot of people don't know the impact that it really has. You know, when you think about it over a long time frame, you can be like, okay, when I was a kid, I used to be, able to go down to the store and spend a quarter and I could get a whole day's worth of snacks with that quarter.
That's right.
I could go to the movies for $1 or get popcorn, drink, and a movie, and I'm, $2, $3 in. Ugh. Anybody been to a movie theater lately?
See, you said that, and as soon as you said that, I was like, I just took my kids to the movie. Are you kidding me?
See, the key word you used there was plural. You said kids.
Yeah.
A date for you and your spouse is almost $100 at the movies. By the time you get a popcorn, a snack, a drink, and the movie tickets, you're $100 in. Easy.
You are.
Easily.
And you're going, is this really worth? Why did I even want to do this? Because you go, okay, I'm excited about this. And then the real world hits kind of thing. Well, I can't avoid it. I want to go to the movie theater, or I want to go out to dinner, or I want to buy the groceries that I want to buy.
Yeah.
How am I supposed to inflation proof all of this?
So it's looking for those opportunities for additional streams of income. When we get ready to retire, a lot of times people sit back and they say, well, I don't need as much to live on. I can retire. But my question is always, when you worked for 20, 30, 40 years of your life, was your ideal when you got done working to say, I'm going to cut back. I'm not going to do the things I enjoy anymore because, I'm not working. I don't want to live like that anymore. My thought is always this: I don't want you to retire from your lifestyle. I want you to retire from work.
Yeah.
Not your lifestyle. You need to protect that at all costs. So when I am looking for that opportunity to say, let's sit down and build you a plan. I want you to retire from work, not your lifestyle. What does it cost you to be you? What exactly does that look like? Not just what you can get by on. If you like to travel, if you like to take 2 or 3 trips a year, you like to go out to eat, 2 or 3 times a month, or whatever that is for you, we've got to figure that out. Then we've got to say, okay, now it's just a math problem, because now I have a number to go off of. It's 5, 6, 7 grand a month, whatever that number is. And I say, okay, now Social Security will account for this. We will never rely solely on it because I need to control what I can. I can't control, will they lower Social Security? Will this happen? Are they going to not give me an increase or that COLA, that cost of living adjustment, because some, magic inflation number didn't move that we know is not reality?
Yeah.
But I got to look at these situations and say, okay, now I'm going to take from the money that I saved up to go along with that to maintain my lifestyle. Whatever that number is, I need to put that money into a bucket that I cannot lose for any situation.
Kind of what you're saying is most people start from this and go forward. You're kind of starting from the back end and saying, if my lifestyle looks like this, how do I re-engineer it to the front?
Correct. So my thought process is we are going to build a house. a fiscal house for your retirement.
Okay.
What is the most important part of that house?
Unfortunately, the thing that you don't really care about, and that's the foundation.
It's always the foundation, and everybody understands that. So this is the image. If you take the image of the iceberg, right? You got this little part that's peeking out, and 80% of it is down below. That's the foundation in a house, right? Your age should be your foundation. That percentage of your net worth should be in your foundation. So if I'm 65, 65% of my net worth is going to be in the foundation. That foundation should be accounts that you cannot lose for any reason. Not to the IRS, not to the lawsuit, not to unnecessary fees, not to, healthcare situations or scares. Like, I need to make sure I use the right accounts and the right structure or allocation to make sure I cannot lose, because that number should be able to maintain your lifestyle for the rest of your life.
Before you move on, I want to talk about that. Okay. 65% is going to be in accounts that I can't lose, but I've been in accounts that have always been risking stuff because I've been told that I have to grow it, and that's the way that I have to do it. And then that big number is supposed to be my foundation.
Yeah.
I guess we're thinking wrong about it because we're moving
Absolutely,
out.
because that doesn't necessarily mean that I get into accounts that have growth. That means I get into accounts that have no losses. There's plenty of those out there. There's all kinds of different 7702 accounts. There's some ETFs. There's some indexed accounts. There's annuity accounts. There's all kinds of different things that I can use that are going to provide some of that safety and guarantee. And remember, if you're using the word guarantee, it has to be from an insurance product. There's nothing in the market that can ever guarantee you anything. So I want to be very clear from that, right? So when I sit in this situation, let's say I got $1 million. If I put 650 in my foundation, I know off of the foundation, I can spin off about 7% for the rest of my life without running out of money. And there's a lot of ways to even guarantee that.
Okay, so you're talking now about a different number.
Yeah.
Because the other number that we were told for the last several decades has been, I just need 4%.
Right.
And I guess this goes back to how you began this program is, I don't want you to take a pay cut in retirement.
Correct.
And your lifestyle. So how does that number, when I say I'm zero floor strategizing a foundation, and I can take 7% off that, I'm probably getting, I don't want to get into the weeds, but the idea is, let's lay something flat so we know.
Yeah, so it's understanding the right tools. The 4% rule is to account for volatility.
Okay.
But if I am in an account that has no volatility, it either goes up or stays flat, then I can bump that number up. And a lot of times the companies will guarantee it because they know you're not taking a loss out of those accounts. So when I look at those accounts, I can bump that number up. I don't have to take into the account the volatility of what the 4% rule provides. Now, I want to have liquidity. I want to have fund money. I want to have the opportunity to take advantage of things. Some people that I meet, they still love to play the stock market. And I say that's fine.
Because they enjoy it.
Correct. That doesn't mean that you do unnecessary or take unnecessary risk with that money. So now we put 65% in the foundation. That's gonna maintain my lifestyle. You got 35% left. My typical advice is gonna be 25% should go on the walls. The walls of that house now, that's your paychecks. That's your fun money. When you want to take trips, when you want to buy toys, when you want to have fun, you want to go shopping, you want to go out to eat, you do it out of the walls account. And that should be accounts like bonds, preferred stocks, dividend paying accounts. And if we want to go for inflation proofing this, we want to use things like municipal bonds, things that I can still get distribution off of. They're not going to be very volatile. And what is a municipal bond? What is a municipality? It's a city, right? So it's loans to the city. That's what a bond is. It's a debenture or a loan to the city.
Yeah.
And I can get those back tax-free. So now I've got distributions, I've got income, I've got interest I can spin off of that. I've still got some liquidity. I can pull that money out, but it will spin off income to help cover inflation.
Okay, so you've figured out guaranteed money with the insurance stuff in the foundation.
Yeah.
Now we're talking about, and it's not guaranteed, but you're putting it kind of in a lot of ways with the government,
right,
where there's not a lot of risk to loss, but
correct,
there is chance for gain.
Correct. So and that's where you kind of get into this position. I've got my safety net.
Okay.
That's in my foundation. I want the opportunity to still get some growth and take advantage of things, but let's be real. If the market took a 30% loss, and we're saying 30% of the 25%, what are we at? Really just over 6%?
Yeah.
Nobody panics at 6%. I'm not saying it's nice or that it's happy.
Well, I think for a lot of people it is nice. If you're going to say that I'm not going to lose anything and I'm pretty much good for 6%, I'll probably take that right now.
Right. And that's where the right allocations and risk profiles when it comes to retirement planning make all the difference in the world. Because we can wait things out. This is what you typically hear. Oh, wait it out. It's a paper loss. It'll come back. That works if you don't have to touch any of that money. Well, when we laid that foundation and that foundation maintains your lifestyle, you don't have to touch the money that's in the play checks or in the roof. And I haven't got to the roof yet. We'll probably get to that here, shortly, but I don't have to touch that money because my lifestyle is protected. I allocated it correctly, so I never have to worry about that situation.
Yeah, all right, we'll get to the roof. We do have to take a break. The idea is, do you have any asset preservation? Or has it all been growth and you've been told that that's the way? Have you laid a foundation? Have you heard this idea of building the house so that it's not going to fall down in retirement? Have you talked about not taking a pay cut in retirement? If your advisor hasn't spoken to you about this, or maybe your advisor hasn't spoken to you about it, maybe they haven't even spoken to you in the last couple of years, maybe it's time for a second opinion. Maybe it's time for a complimentary written financial plan. Make the phone call to 855-348-3018. Let's lay the foundation. Let's create the walls. We'll get to the roof in just a moment because the outcome is income. Wouldn't you like to have a plan? It's complimentary. It's yours free. And maybe a peace of mind that you've been looking for a long time. 855-348-3018.